Perfect.
Awesome.
Welcome, everyone. If you can turn on those cameras, Michelle just explained, but you guys weren't in here yet, that it's more of a conversational call, kind of like a podcast, except we're going to allow Q&A from the audience as well. But, this whole podcast, the Agency Talk, is really focused on real agency issues, the things that marketers are facing today, what's working today, what's, kind of mistakes to avoid. And we have our top people come and talk to us. So today we have Robert Lee. Robert, I'll let you do a little intro about yourself, but Robert's one of our top certified partners. He's had some fantastic success with our program. And if you're new to Digital Marketer, basically what we do here is we curate content from as many marketers as we can talk to, and then we generate frameworks and techniques that use the expert advice that has worked for people. So at Digital Marketer, it's not just us coming up with crap that has made us money. We do tell you about that stuff too, but ideally what it is connecting with the experts in each individual field of marketing, getting their feedback, and then creating frameworks so that we can all employ them. And the benefit of Digital Marketer itself is that we have a common language. We have these common kind of core aspects of digital marketing. So you don't have to waste a bunch of time explaining, the context of how your system will work, because if you know Digital Marketer, we're going to apply everything to the customer value journey. And so it's really simple. So the whole point of that is that we're able to take advice from everybody and bring you onto the show and share it. So today we have Robert Lee, who has a very unique approach and pretty much a growing approach that I think is going to be really pivotal in the next, 12 months, 24 months, as marketing kind of transitions due to AI and economic changes, which is offline marketing, which is kind of funny because we're Digital Marketer. But Robert is going to explain to us how he kicks butt using offline marketing with online marketing in order to get his clients' business. So welcome, Robert.
Yeah. Thanks. This is now the second time I joined you. I joined you for that podcast and we talked about this stuff. And real briefly, without spending 30 minutes talking about myself, I'm a guy that doesn't necessarily take what I'm told I have to do and just accept it. I'm an ENTP, which means I'm a debater by nature, which means I'm constantly trying to ask questions about how I can do something differently, why something is done a certain way. And so now that we're in the digital age, my question has always been, well, why can't mail be used with all of this stuff? And so I'm a big proponent of understanding that digital and mail and print and offline and online, they're all media forms, but they all follow the same principles of connecting with people. And the thing I've loved about being part of the Digital Marketer family is the stress of the importance of building relationships, healthy relationships with people. Because we've all certainly seen what an unhealthy relationship between a service provider and a customer can be. We've also seen what a healthy relationship can be. So we just try to use mail to help build better relationships, just like we do digital.
That's fantastic. Well, and I love that you talked about the community too, because I think, sometimes as marketers, you get in your head, you could have one bad client out of 10, which was my ratio when I had my agency, and that one person could suck up all of your time and all of your effort. And at the end of the day, stop paying you, which is the worst part after they do all that stuff. But, when you have a community of people who are going through the same stuff and you talk about this, they'll be like, fire that person now. Doesn't even matter how much money it's worth. But if you don't have that, you won't have the confidence to do it.
And it's funny, the background that I have is actually not in mail specifically, but it's in political consulting. That's what I started doing, where I started learning about marketing skills and techniques. And I really made a name for myself by inadvertently doing a lot of the things that Digital Marketer really consolidated for me. As I became a member of the family, right? And so for me, it's been incredibly wonderful to see how all of those bad experiences, and there are a lot of bad experiences working in politics. I mean, there are a lot of bad clients that you work with over years, but there's a lot of great ones. And so it's been great to just see a lot of people that are struggling through at certain points of their life that we can be part of, because that's the toughest part about being an agency owner. You feel like you're on an island so often, And you can't see the forest through the trees, or forest for the trees, or whatever that colloquial statement is, without having good people around you. So
Well, we appreciate you being here too. And sharing that kind of information. I think people are, uncomfortable. It's like, am I unsuccessful because I'm not able to handle 100% of the people I take on for services? And at the end of the day, no, some people are jerks and you're not that good at vetting them, or at least I wasn't.
yeah,
That's funny.
I
It's tough to say no to that.
Yeah, exactly. So we going back to the discussion of direct mail, it's a tried and true method of building those relationships. And we are starting to help clients understand that you can use mail as part of a growth strategy. You can't rely on it singularly, but you can't rely on Facebook ads singularly, right? So it's going to be a long slog. It's going to be a lot of conversations, and we're probably going to hit some bumps in the road in the process, but it's a fantastic way to have an attentive audience that you can build better relationships with, right? I mean,
Well, and a differentiator, because I think nowadays, and kind of my point, and actually I'm giving a speech about this next week, is that the offline marketing methods are going to be pivotal moving forward, specifically because of generative AI is going to make creating unlimited ads. That's going to be easy. Unlimited ad testing. That's going to be easy. Unlimited content. That's already happening. There's these aspects of online that are going to be, commoditized, even more so than they've been to date. But what's not going to be commoditized is the process. And I think one of the big arguments against doing offline was, it was like, oh, offline's so expensive, and offline, you can't track it, so it's worthless. And, let's just talk through those two objections to offline and kind of how you handle them.
Yeah. So on a when you look at it as a per piece basis, it absolutely is more expensive. Cannot deny that whatsoever. On a per piece basis. But when you look at conversion rates, compare it to your per piece basis, your cost of acquisition tends to be the same or better, because the conversion rates are just so much higher, right? When we're talking about digital ads, I mean, we're having to evaluate click-through rates, we're having to evaluate opt-in rates, we're having to evaluate all of this. When you send a direct mail piece, if you're doing the work ahead of time, your click-through rate, because everybody's getting that mail piece. And more importantly, you're in a mailbox with maybe 8 to 10 other pieces max. So when you go back to the what were they, the boron letters, that talking about A pile versus B pile, it's easier to end up in a non-junk pile mail if you take the time to understand your customers, what their problems are, and you can speak directly to them. So you don't have to worry about that click-through rate. And as you say, you have all these iterative AI tools. Imagine the overwhelming advertising environment that these customers that you're trying to connect with are going to have to wade through on all these digital platforms. I mean, it's a ton. It's an absolute ton. And unless you have your messaging really dialed in, you're always going to run into that problem of how do you cut through all the noise of people that have the capabilities to just constantly use these AI schemes to come up with different ads constantly. I mean, it's just, you don't have that competition with direct mail. And so when you understand that it's just a form of media and that it offers some opportunities to advance your digital efforts, you can really put yourself in a strong position to succeed. And one example of this is we worked with a client who's done mail for years, who just asked the question, well, how can we make our mail better? Because we think it works, but we've never really tested it. And I said, well, here's some ways that we can do that. We put a QR code on their piece and tied that QR code back to our CRM to collect data. So anytime a salesperson scanned that QR code, the coupon code attached to the recipient of that piece was automatically logged in our system, and all they had to do was enter the gross amount of the purchase. And what that allowed them to do was track a tremendous amount of data regarding who was buying products in store. We also had those coupon codes tied to their Shopify store. So now we're tying that direct mail piece specifically back to their other digital advertising efforts. And because of the ability to pump all that data back into Facebook and Google and all these conversion APIs, they're now able to better target their digital ads because of what that mail piece was able to bring in.
Well, and the awesome part about that is that I think the more impressions you can make in more environments, the more lasting the impact of the ad's going to be. And nothing's more impressive to me than seeing something on a billboard or a mail piece and then automatically seeing that online, because that shows me a level of exposure that, makes it impressive. Like I'm like, wow, man, this brand's everywhere. Like they are offline, they're online, that, it makes a big difference. But the other thing that you said that was really interesting to me is that just the trackability and the simplicity of what it is. Because when you get online and you're like, okay, we're going to set up your ad campaign and there's 60 ads, we're going to break it down like this, and then we're going to retarget after they click on it. And it starts to become like a fog of information for your client. And they don't understand what's happening. They don't understand retargeting. They don't understand the marketing process, but they do understand, okay, 100 people use my coupon that I send out. That's working.
Exactly.
And for you as the marketer, that's a huge advantage, because you'd be like, yep, the campaign worked. We did a good job. Let's go ahead and sign you up and keep on going.
We made X number of dollars on X number of pieces. I mean, what's one of the principles of the customer value journey, right? You keep it simple. And there's no reason to make tracking complex. I mean, that's the other nice thing about direct mail, is that it offers very easy tracking because you can make it very specific, and you don't have to worry about, again, click-through rates or all click-through rates versus unique click-through rates. And I mean, just all this marketing mumbo jumbo that I couldn't explain to my grandmother in a bar having a beer, right? If I can't explain it in that context, there's no way in hell a customer is going to sit there and say, yeah, it makes total sense.
I get it.
So yeah, I totally get it. So
retard APIs, retargeting. I totally know it. Website URL.
Yeah, if I had a nickel for every time a client asked me that, I'd have 0 nickels. So
well, no, and you say your grandmother, but I'm like, it could be your brother. Like, the level of understanding is 0 for a lot of the times, but people still understand mail pieces, and now people appreciate them. Right.
Yeah, absolutely. And it cuts across generations, right? I mean, you send a nice, pretty mail piece, your Gen X or your millennials and your Gen Zers, they love something that sparks creativity. And you send it to older generations, they love something that sparks that nostalgia. So they're, from an emotional standpoint, again, understanding that customer avatar and their journey that they're on, it helps solve kind of a subconscious problem in their head by sparking something inside of them that gets them to react in a very certain way. So
I love that. And I think it's for me, I still look through all of them, and I'll actually save some of those postcards. I'll be like, oil change. Well, I have an electric car, so I don't need that. But
yeah,
I'm like, somebody else might. I'm gonna hold on to it.
Well, it's funny, again, politics being a niche I serve, which is always just such a double-edged sword, because it can go sideways real fast in conversations with folks. But these are techniques that we use in that industry, and it's actually funny to see all of my colleagues that are saying, well, we got to send out this piece to say this. I'm like, well, what happens afterwards? Are we just do you just want to send this thing out just to send it? Because I'll take your money, but what happens afterwards? And it's just amazing when it's like, looks like witchcraft, and it's not that complicated, but the people that you're communicating this to, there's a mysticism behind it, which puts you in a position to be a brilliant marketer with it, when you can start tying it to newfangled forms of that internet fad marketing that's happening. So
Well, and I know like some industries make total sense for sending out a mail piece. I think home services,
Mhm.
automotive services, anything that's kind of locally based, even like a clothing boutique that's like down the street from the people you're mailing to,
Absolutely.
that could work. Can it work for, geodiverse populations as well, or is it mainly local?
I would say it's mainly local, primarily because the offer allows you to show up very quickly, right? But that said, I mean, if you're an e-commerce brand, you could definitely use direct mail easily to be able to connect with potential audiences across the country, right? And it may very well be that you have regional preferences for certain products in your product line that you have. The other great thing about mail is this day and age, you can create uh, a variety of mail in the same run. So you can go through your list and pre-sort it, get your postage discounts, get all of that stuff set aside from a technical standpoint, and you can then print specific messages to specific people.
Hmm.
So you can have that dynamic content on your mail piece in a way that helps connect with them individually. So even inside of a pre-sort, you can have one massive list, but each person on that list can receive something very unique. So again, go back to a product line, that that of these 10,000 customers, 2,000 customers are going to be likely to fit in this avatar and have this product. So even locally, you can vary that, but again, nationally, you can do that with amazing accuracy as well.
What's funny is I just realized it's an e-commerce store, and actually, Lewis, thank you for contributing that he gets Amazon direct mail for Christmas toys. That's
Mhm.
awesome. But the perception of getting a piece of the mail is that the business is local. So if you
Mhm.
were an e-commerce store and you sent out a mail piece like, "Hey, baby clothes" or whatever it is, I would assume that you're local. However, I would still not be interested in going into your shop. I would go onto your website though. So it's
Yep.
almost like you could, send anywhere in the country, and a good majority of the people will assume that you're local and then may shop where they never would have before. And even if you were in person, they wouldn't shop there anyways. And so now you get this benefit of appearing local. Not that you
Yeah,
should deceive
that's
anybody,
it,
but
right? And that's definitely something that again, my wife is a nurse. She's not a marketer by any stretch of the measure. So all of these conversations about APIs and all that, she just looks at me and says, Why are you talking to me about this right now? Like, why? Why are we having this discussion?" But she does respond to ads that hit her sweet spot, right? I mean,
oh yeah.
she's a sucker for it. So she may not understand how marketing works, but she understands what marketing does, right?
Oh yeah.
And again, yeah, you're absolutely right. Especially this day and age when people have an emotional attachment to shop local. That's part of that customer value journey, right? That's part of
Mhm.
the problem. They don't want to see a local business go under because of Amazon. So if Amazon can make itself look more local, then it absolutely can do so. But even then, the great thing about places like Amazon or Uber Eats, I've received Uber Eats
Mm.
direct mail pieces. They can personalize that card, so it's even more local than local shops. It is local to you specifically. Like, hey,
Mm.
Robert, make sure to get your free steamed dumplings on us or something like that, right? Because I'm a
That's
sucker for cheap Chinese food. So
oh man, there's not much of that in Austin. I found like one good Chinese place. I'm like, oh my gosh. And it's super expensive. And I'm like, that's not how it's supposed to be.
yeah, y'all
Uh
y'all are too hip for that good cheap Chinese food in Austin, I think.
no, not in California. In California, we had cheap Chinese food on every corner. That and
Well,
fillet
yeah,
chops and CrossFits.
that's right. That's right.
Well, let's just talk about that because you do see big businesses do it too. Because I know, I get like Patagonia full on at like magazines essentially, and
Mhm.
Lululemon, and a lot of the big brands will actually send big old catalogs out in the mail. So obviously that works, but it can't do the customization. But actually, before I forget the question, when you talk about customization, do you actually do something like not just the name, but could you say like, hey, you ordered this t-shirt last
Mhm.
quarter, and we have these other designs that you might like too, and customize it that specifically to a customer?
Absolutely. Yeah. You just have to make sure your data file, it's no different than matching custom fields in an email,
Hmm.
right? So, I mean, you see an email and it says, uh, hey, Rob, you bought this last quarter. We've got this great line of t-shirts for you. Are you interested in these? It's the same thing. It's just making sure that your data is sound and being able to print that data on a postcard as opposed to having it placed in an email. But yeah, you can get as
Hmm.
specific as you want based on the information you have with your clients. So
Oh, that's fantastic. Well, because I think back into my magazine days, and before that, I was a real estate agent in the early 2000s. And so I had a farm, and I was always like, I love to customize these pieces, but the price point for doing postcards, like a custom postcard, one-off postcard, is like 10 times the cost of doing 500 or 1,000. Has that cost come down quite a bit for that kind of customized?
Yeah, I mean, because you have digital variable printing that allows you to do it. Now, that said, the part of the cost with those one-off postcards, of course, is the postage, right? When you're talking about uh, savings on mail pieces, where you're really getting the majority of your savings is in postage, and that goes with pre-sorting. So if you're sending out a marketing piece, you can save anywhere between 40 to 60% on postage, which is the majority of your cost. The labor is actually the smallest portion of your cost. So you definitely want to pre-sort your mail as much as you can. But even still, the variable printing allows you to still get those postage savings, but create a custom piece for that individual recipient. So real estate agents or home flippers are a perfect example. We worked with somebody to build a little API program that pulls Google Map images of homes.
Hmm.
And so an insurance agent, if they want to say, hey, save money on your insurance that's coming up for renewal on this X home at 123 Main Street, you could put a picture of the home on there. And initially that's going to get somebody's attention because it's like, damn, that's my house on the card.
Yeah.
Right. And if you have a good offer, then at that point you've gotten their attention. Now you get their engagement and you can get them to call and subscribe. Then you spend some time on the phone with them. That's your conversion moment. You get them to see that calling you is better than calling a gecko. And then now you're selling them other lines of business, life insurance and so on and so forth, right? So it's the natural customer value journey, just like anything else. And you can definitely get that variability at about the same cost as you would for just about any other kind of postcard.
Fantastic. Well, and I think the biggest change, and I was actually just going to do a post about this on LinkedIn this morning, is going to be the visual aspects of AI and its ability to interpret images. And like
Mhm.
you were saying, with like a Google image of a house, you could probably tell from a satellite image whether somebody needs a new roof or not, right? And you could
Probably.
tell
Yeah.
if, the landscaping is crummy or needs to be
Mhm.
updated, or maybe they need a landscaper. So I think the AI could integrate with your process in terms of, yeah, let's just target people who have these aspects of their house. Their paint's chipping, so I'm going to go, target them for the painter. Now everybody's going to be offended at first, but like, oh, how dare you? Is this your yard?
Well,
Are you
sure.
that
Yeah.
neighbor?
I mean, yeah, some people will be offended and some people will actually let that motivate them to do something. And again, I keep coming back to politics, but that's a tactic that's used in politics all the time. Hey, your neighbor voted, you didn't vote, get out and cast your ballot, because all that's public information, right? You don't need AI to interpret that data. You just pull daily lists and then be able to send out mail pieces for people that are on your target list, be able to send it out there. That'd be fantastic to have an AI program be able to determine which lawns look the crummiest and then send mail pieces on a weekly basis to lawns in different areas to build up that lead list for a local landscaper.
Oh yeah, that'd be huge. Well, and then you get into, and this is the bigger impact where somebody walks in a shop. Like you can
Yeah.
judge a lot about a person from a picture of them. And the only reason why we haven't used that kind of capability as marketers is because it was impossible to go through a million images and make
Mhm.
judgments on all of them. But if you look at what they delayed with ChatGPT 4, which is that kind of like interpretive assessment of images, that's going to be possible. Actually, that's already possible. And
Sure.
now it's just marketers are going to have to utilize it. But I get I'm tracking AI. So after people get the postcard, have you seen any specific calls to action that work better than other calls to action? And what's the next step when they take that action?
Well, it's just like everything else, it depends on the audience. I think the best calls to action will take into account how busy somebody's life is and the
Mm,
point of the day that they check the mail. More often than not, somebody's checking the mail on their way into the house. And so the you have a very limited window to gauge their attention. So in reality, if they put your mail in pile A, the call to action just has to speak to the avatar, just like on digital, right? So the key is just making sure that you have a mail piece that engages their curiosity just that much to get them to stop. And that could be in a variety of ways. I'm a big proponent of sending 12 by 15 size mail pieces
oh,
because
big
they are,
size.
I mean, they're ginormous. You pay the same as you would for an 8.5 by 11 in terms of postage and in terms of labor. The printing is moderately more expensive, but that thing is giant. It's a poster. It's an
Oh yeah.
absolute monster of a poster in somebody's mailbox. The sheer size alone gets them to stop and look and just say, "The hell is this thing?" Right? This is obnoxious. Why am I looking at something so obnoxious? Oh, because my lawn looks like crap and this lawn looks like garbage and I need to get that lawn fixed, right? So as long as you can get their attention and you're speaking to your avatar, that offer, you would craft that offer the same way you would. And this is where the lessons that we're learning in the AI boot camp are so fantastic, is you can use AI to help craft those offers, help craft that narrative the same way you would in any other form of media.
Mm,
So it really just, the wonderful thing about mail, I think, is that you can really let your creativity fly in a little bit different way, right? With digital, you're testing a ton of different stuff. In this particular type of media, all that testing is going on through the creative process, and you're finding something that will work. So again, in chapter 11 of the letters, Gary Halbert writes to his son, imagine what would happen if you attached a piece of dirt to a mail piece. How much
ooh,
attention would that get? Right. So really it's just all about getting that extra bit of attention so that you can follow the same processes and crafting a good offer and a good call to action. But again, make it simple, make it human to human, and follow the sequence. And generally your marketing with mail will work the same way it does with digital, just with less competition.
yeah. Well, and I think that 12 by 15 tip, that is huge. Just so everybody knows, write that down.
Mhm.
Because when you're sending mail pieces, like, yeah, 12 by 15 is super awkward, and that will get way more attention. People will
Mhm.
fold it up and it'll fall out on the table. And I mean, there's a huge advantage to that. And you wouldn't get any of that physical component of getting people's attention unless you did a mail piece. You can make the most
Exactly.
obnoxious banner you want or the most beautiful banner you want on a website, and it could still do absolutely nothing. And you won't know why or why not. But if
Yep.
there's a coupon code attached, yeah, there you go. Did it work? Yeah, you got 50 sales.
Mhm.
Easy peasy.
Absolutely right.
That's awesome.
Absolutely
So,
right.
so the next step, so they get the 12 by 15 banner, they get the poster. Do you always do QR codes that go to a custom page, or what's the tech process in that?
I'm a big fan of QR codes, just because it allows you to directly tie in that component of your digital. So somebody scans a QR code, you can embed in that QR code all the UTM parameters that you need to be able to feed back into the API and then just have a button with hidden fields on a form. I like QR codes for that reason. And I see your question, Joy, and I'll answer it here in a second because it's one of the best questions I love answering. But you can also use custom phone numbers. I mean, we at the last certified partner day, we had the guys from High Level in there talking about missed call text back, right? So you can simply set up a new phone number inside of High Level for each mailer that you do and be able to track the success by having people call that phone number, right? So if you send it to a specific neighborhood, you can have a phone number for a specific neighborhood or a specific region of a state. And with variable printing, you can print a variable phone number on there and be able to have that be part of your tracking mechanism as well to start conversations with people. So the key in whatever you do is look for ways to tie it to the digital platforms and the data collection systems that you have as much so you can automate that process based on what action somebody is taking off of that mail piece, right? Whether that be phone numbers or QR codes or whatever. I just like QR codes because everybody has their cell phone and it's easy to tell them scan this code with your camera phone and then be able to customize that page from there.
That's so funny. I still laugh about QR codes because when they came out, it was like, oh, this is the new revolution. And then everybody got excited and then nobody used them for the most part. And then after COVID and the lockdown and the sanitary procedures, they became super effective and popular. And I don't see that stopping. I think that the advent kind of got delayed, but you've seen that in all development of kind of internet revolutions where it's like everybody kind of poo-pooed that and then they realized it was useful like 5 years later.
Yeah.
Even
Absolutely.
AI has been around for a while. Jasper, I think, is 2+ years old, and people are using it a lot, and it still didn't catch on until now. So
yeah, and it's new technologies always kind of find their way. They have to find their footing. And for me, QR codes, yeah, they're cool when you go to a restaurant and scan the code with your phone and look at the menu on your phone. But now that it's becoming, people are starting to find ways to use it in very dynamic ways. For anybody out there, if you want to create dynamic QR codes for every single, if you do a print piece or something like that, that tracks back to a piece number or a location or anything, go to a little website called qrexplore.com. And I'll verify that's the website. But you can upload a list of URLs that contain all of your UTM parameters. And it's a very simple website. It's nothing flashy, but they will spit out a unique dynamic QR code for every single URL that you upload. And then you can dynamically place those on whatever piece you want to, so that you can track it back to something very specific. So in many cases, we embed 12, 13 dynamic pieces of tracking data in those UTM parameters and collect that when somebody submits their mail piece. Or awesome. Takes action on that mail piece. So now Joy asked the question, would you advise a political mailer of that mammoth size? Absolutely. Absolutely. Without reservation, make that your first mail piece of the campaign every single time. They are so obnoxious that it will get everybody talking. I mean, that's the greatest thing about it, is that if you send a mail piece like that prior to you starting to knock on doors, people will recognize you from the mailer as you're knocking on doors. It's absolutely amazing. And when you put in the work to make sure your digital ads match that mail piece, and you start running those 3 to 4 weeks before you send out that mail piece, and then they get that mail piece 2 to 3 weeks before you start knocking on doors, all of a sudden you knock on somebody's door. And I have clients all the time tell me, whatever you do, it's just absolutely, it works. So let's keep doing it. I thought you were wrong beforehand, but this is an amazing thing. So
well, I think the perception of marketing has been like, oh, it's just this magic technical process that nobody really understands except for the experts and blah blah blah. And I think now that things are getting easier and more automated, Now we're going back to the kind of the original concept of marketing. How do you get
Mhm.
attention? How do you coordinate your campaign? How do you make a lasting impression? How do you keep the customer once you get them? All these
Mhm.
are just basic marketing facets, which were standard up until the internet came and kind of just threw the baby out with the bathwater. And we ended up with this commoditized version of marketing where it's like, oh yeah, simple, just drag and drop and plug it in and you make money.
Yeah.
Which yeah, well, and it works. Back then, 10 years ago, 12 years ago, you could run the crappiest ad ever and it would still generate as much money as you wanted it to, as long as your offer was good. And that's just not the
Mhm.
case anymore. I think it's going to be increasingly hard or
No,
more
and
expensive.
it's funny being on the inside of the mail industry. I've noticed that it is the new way of marketing is squeezing out small independent mailers like
Mm.
us. I mean, it's becoming increasingly hard to compete because it has been so commoditized. And so the real advantage to be able to use direct mail as part of your marketing effort, if you're somebody that does the printing and postal services, is you have to be able to add that element of something good that other people can't do, right? Because anybody can order anything from Vistaprint. The quality sucks and they mark up your postage, but on the same token, you could do it at 3 o'clock in the morning and get 1,000 pieces out just like that. There's no marketing support though for you. It's just pay
Mhm.
us and we'll send this thing out for you. It just like anything else, you're absolutely right. When it gets turned into a commodity, it becomes a little bit harder to make money. But I'm finding that there is a unique proposition to being able to deliver a true and genuine customer value journey that makes the relationship deeper with your customers.
Well, that's where, the money is for marketers, because everybody's had that client or has talked about business owners like, well, I spent 5,000 on TikTok and that didn't work. And then I did a mailer and that didn't work. And then
Mhm.
I did a billboard and that didn't work. And I think even small business owners are starting to realize like, hey, these little touches that you're doing are building up to nothing because they're not coordinated. And what we offer as marketers is that coordination, is that
Mhm.
strategy. And now, yeah, we'll do those things you're talking about, but we're going to pull it all together into a cohesive approach that's going to make you look awesome and get you in front of people. And then we're going to do follow up so they stay your customer. And then that's where I think that's where we're headed versus, what's happened to date, which is usually a business owner attaches to a single marketing method that
Mhm.
worked for them. And then that's it. Then, oh yeah, I make good money and I'm happy and all that kind of stuff. But I think what's going to start happening, even with those vendors, the small business owners that have made a good amount of money, is you're going to have these new AI capable companies and marketing approaches that are going to push them out because they'll be like, oh, we could do what you do. That's easy. Plus, we'll automate the entire process and we'll make everything easier. And you don't have to
Mhm.
do anything. You just send it to us. We'll do the rest of the work for you. You get business, blah, blah, blah. So I think that's, the coordination piece is the biggest thing that you do, in my eyes, is it's not like, oh, Robert does mail. Like,
Mhm.
no, Robert sets up a process that delivers results continuously, systematically, and formulaically. And that's why you hire Robert.
That's well, it's funny, right? Since I become a digital marketer certified partner, that's been the best answer I've been able to give folks. What do you do? You're a printer, right? No, I help people make more money and build better relationships with their customers. We use mail to do that, but that's our job, is to help you build better relationships with people that you need to make money and they need you to solve a problem. And when people hear that, it doesn't click right away, but people start to get that, over time. And the clients that really invest in the relationship building process see it. Mail is just a form of media. That's it. It literally is no different than digital ads or billboards or radio spots or television spots. It's a form of building awareness and engagement so that you can build a better relationship over time.
Yeah, and that's where the money is, you know.
Mhm.
Now going back to the whole advanced tech coming up, I'm sure everybody's seen the new Apple Vision Pro. And you know, what that's really going to start doing is making for me, augmented reality is going to start being a much bigger thing. Well, actually, it's not even a thing right now. It's going to be a thing.
Mhm.
So have you thought about that, kind of like the integration of, you know, actually visually combining these physical assets with the digital assets that go together? I'm just
Oh
interested
my,
in.
yeah, no, it's funny. I mean, I was, and I have an Oculus because I like, lightsaber games on there, like any other Star Wars nerd in the world. But I saw Apple's device, and my first immediate thought was, how cool would it be to just send a blank white postcard that said to customers that bought these things or that fit the profile of people buying these things, and say you can only see what's on this card with your Apple device, or whatever the vision device is called. Put it on and let's talk, or wear it to see your special coupon, something like that, right? I mean, it's a crazy idea.
Oh my gosh, you could have a person appear in front of somebody if you
Yeah,
wanted to.
like hold this card, and all of a sudden you're seeing that hologram of Princess Leia saying, "You're our only hope," right? I
Oh my
mean,
gosh.
how ridiculously cool would that be? I'm not smart enough to make that happen with a mail piece yet, but I would think at some point something like that can be done relatively soon.
Wow. You know what's well, the funny thing is you see those components on billboards these days where you either have a brand name with no QR code and no website and whatever, and you're supposed to go search for it, or just a QR code. Because if I got a 12 by 15 mailer in the mail and it was just a giant QR code, I'd be like, there's no way I'm not scanning this.
Yeah,
Like, I
exactly.
have to know what the heck this is and why it was sent. So I think that marketing approach is fantastic.
Yeah.
Now, I have seen the business cards that have the QR or have a Bluetooth chip on them. And
Mhm.
so you could essentially just touch your phone and does it. Are there mail pieces like that that are coming out? Because that tech is still pretty expensive.
Yeah, that's cost prohibitive for direct mail, but I would imagine in relative short order, something with those RFID chips would be coming in some sort of fashion, right? I mean, I think it's always going to be a high-end mailer when you're talking about a, a press piece costing a penny or two to print. But it could definitely be something that gets used. And again, Joy's given us a lot of talk on here. It was Coinbase that did
Oh, yeah,
that floating
Coinbase.
QR code during the Super Bowl, which I thought was a fantastic ad, by the way, too, because it's that same sort of principle, right? Again, everything we're talking about, you can plug television in for direct mail and still follow the same principles of having
Mm.
those integrated approaches. Now, back to the RFID question, I think that'd be an interesting mailer to do. Or going back to the big fat QR code you're talking about, just having a big 12 by 15 piece that says, "I dare you not to scan this code."
Yeah. Don't scan this. Actually, you could
Yeah,
just write that. Don't scan this code. And people
don't
be
scan
like,
this code.
don't tell me what to do. And
I
then they
would do it
totally,
just
I
because
would
that
do
mail
it.
piece told me. Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
Send it to rebels. Rebels will be sure to say, oh,
Oh,
and then it's just a web page that says, gotcha. And
not
that's it.
yeah, that's it. That's it. Oh my
Or
gosh, it's
Rickroll.
funny. It's funny you mentioned that. So again, I know I'm gonna make some people's heads explode when I say this, but for a period of time, I was the chairman of the Georgia Young Republicans when I was in my 30s. Right? Please don't hate me. We had a lot of fun with it. It was all driven towards building better relationships with people. So please understand that. But one of the things that we did to really drive engagement were practical jokes on a regular basis.
Hmm.
So I remember during an April Fool's joke that we pulled on the world by saying that I got indicted or something like that by the rest of my board. Click here to find out what it's all about. And then it was just a big picture that said, "Ha, gotcha," with Hillary Clinton smiling and celebrating, right?
Oh,
Our audiences absolutely loved it because it was an April Fool's joke, right? But it's mixing those methods of communication to be able to get people to take action and spark that curiosity. So you talk about sending a postcard like that to rebels. My wife would scan that code because she's a nosy person that has to know everything
Oh
about
yeah.
everybody, right? So she would scan it just because she wanted to know what somebody, she couldn't hesitate to not know,
Oh my
right?
gosh, you could actually go with the counter and say like only liberals should scan this.
Yeah. And again, I don't want to cross that bridge because I know it's
Yeah, no,
so
no.
dicey,
I think
but
it's the conservatives,
yeah,
I will say this though, because I think, for the last 3 to 5 years, we've gone to this like boring, way too PC, and I'm not going to say anything too not PC on here, but I think people are starting to get at least bored with it
oh yeah,
because
yeah.
it's boring. So I'm hoping that it comes back to jokes and memes and things that we're not going to kill each other over.
No. And that's the thing is that it doesn't matter if it's politics, business, whatever. People just want to know that there's a real person on the other end of the line, right? I mean, that's it, right? Regardless if you're buying from Amazon or the little Amazon trading company that's a shop just down the road, you want to know that when you're buying from somebody, it's a meaningful exchange. I mean, that's just it. And it's in life. We are so disconnected from people, and it allows us to do things like this, but it also just that social square that we used to be part of, that cityscape that we used to just walk down and nod to Billy and Jane who were just walking down the street. We miss that. So that's the wonderful thing about direct mail marketing, is that it recalls that back, that time where we used to just have tangible relationships with people. And it's something that I certainly miss. I know I've made this pretty public in the DM family, right? But I've just had this tremendous amount of loss over the last year. I mean, in just multiple different ways. It has affected my mental well-being. It's affected my businesses, right? I love being part of a group of people that I know at some point I can see and hug and talk to. It's amazing. And that's the one thing about direct mail that separates it from other forms of advertising. It is tangible. It is real. It is something you can feel and touch. And so making that part of that value journey, it connects with something deep inside of us that needs a physical touch to something. So,
I love that.
going back to all that PC stuff you talked about, you have more license to be trusted to make bad jokes, to make offhand comments, because people will know it's not in a mean-spirited manner. It's a joke that fell flat, but I give you the benefit of the doubt that you were just trying to crack a joke. Which,
well, the fact that you try,
yeah,
I think that's a willingness to connect, even if not everybody's going to like it. And I think that's where we've, as marketers too, it's like, oh, we want the broadest audience possible, so we're going to generalize everything, and and now it's totally gone back to the niche. And even more so, I think the entire internet is going back to community, which is something that was the dawn of the internet. It was, when AOL was launched, the key features were chat rooms, instant messenger, and email. So the basis of all browsing was around this community, communication, connection aspect. And then we commoditized and commercialized information. And that's been the last 15 years. So I think you kind of represent the future and the past of marketing, and you're doing a great job with it, because and let's just talk about automation too for a second, because I think a lot of people think that the mailing is this manual approach, and even the phone calls that you get from those emails, you got to have somebody on the line. But you heard Jeff Hunter talking yesterday at our AI boot camp that he got a call and couldn't tell it was AI, even though he interrupted and objected to the person, the AI, a bunch of times. Now, if you combine that with your mailing approach, now you've just automated the digital journey and the audio journey that somebody could take, which could target any audience.
Yeah, absolutely. That was exactly what I thought of when he was mentioning that yesterday. I mean, we could literally revolutionize every single small business that was willing to invest in that technology to be able to build better relationships with people and to be able to capture that information and then be able to understand what people are objecting to, what their problems are with a little bit more specificity. That just means you could create better mail pieces for them. So it's
Well, I couldn't even imagine. Could you picture, like, you send a mail piece, it has a coupon code, but you got a call for it. They call and they're like, oh, Nancy, you must have just got that piece that we sent out last week. We've had a bunch of calls on this. I'm so glad you came because we actually are almost out. And then Nancy's like, oh, great. Well, what is it? And then you have the AI explain it all, answer questions, objections, scheduling. I mean, you could, the possibilities are endless for automation, and now you don't have to have a call center because it's just an AI tool. So
yeah, that's it's both an exciting thought and a scary thought. The scary part of it for me is how much people will lean into it as a replacement for human interaction. And that's the line that we have to draw, right? That's where the art of being a marketer, I think, is extremely important. Is that you can't just rely on this to do your job. You have to be able to understand that there are just things that you can't be replaced for. And it's identifying those moments, right? And again, that's what I try to do with direct mail. I try to sit there and say, yeah, I understand you want your piece to say this, but let's try to give it this little go a little bit, right? Or where we talk about the mail piece size, right? Have you thought about doing a larger mail piece? Well, no, I hadn't. Well, here's why we can think that. Could an AI platform do that? Probably. I'm not that smart. So I think I could be relatively easy to replace here in a couple of years. But on the same token, if I see you have just that small little tell that tells me your marketing isn't working or tells me you have an objection, I don't think AI is ever going to be a great poker player. And that's the thing about marketing, I think. And again, direct mail is very much part of that relationship process. You have to be able to read those tells to be able to craft the right piece, both in the people receiving it, but also the people you're helping send it for. So
yeah, well, and I think all marketers realize that the things you think are going to work don't always work. And the unexpected things that are done on accident sometimes totally work, and new ideas and all that kind of stuff. But at the end of the day, like with the, marketers and automation, is just imagine all that technical crap that you spent time learning, executing, all that stuff goes out the window, and you can focus 100% on relationships and creativity.
Exactly. That's the wonderful part about it. So that is absolutely the wonderful part about it, which is really no different than setting up automations, nurture automations, right? I mean, that's essentially AI. It's very simplistic AI, but it's absolutely AI. And Axel, man, it seems like you're having a great time out on the boat, dude. That's the way to live right there.
Jealous of Axel.
But he actually made the comment, right, that the human factor is what guarantees quality, and I agree with that 100%, right? AI will help us get quantity, people will help us deliver quality. So
yeah, well, and innovation, because I think AI is as good as the inputs. So if you don't have good inputs, then it's always going to be crap. And really where I see it going, even for, individual companies and individuals themselves, is that, we're going to be driving our own AIs. Like everybody references like ChatGPT and these specific tools, but it's not going to suffice for mainly security issues. You're going to have an independent AI that manages your independent stuff.
yeah,
And so it's not that we're all going to be, subservient to a single AI. It'll probably just be your AI or your company's AI. But that's still you. You're still feeding it the database and information that's driving its decisions and driving all the stuff. So what's the difference between that and just a program or a book that you wrote, it's going to be the same information.
100%. Yeah. Yeah.
Just
And
automated.
that again goes back to the automations that we are trying to get mail clients to start adopting on the back end of their mail. That's essentially what that is. It's just automating steps so that you have more time to, like you said, be with people, talk with
Be
people.
with people.
Yeah.
Creative. Or just work less. I think it's I'm hoping that if anybody gets anything out of AI is it's like maybe we don't all need to work 80 hours a week or even 40 hours a week. That's the majority of our lives. Like, it's tough because I think we've been such a hustle culture for my entire life, at least. And now I look at like, whoa, what if I didn't work a billion hours?
Yeah. I mean, again, this isn't woe is me by any stretch of the measure, but I need time to just heal from losing family. And I have not had that time over the last 9 months. I need that time just to be able to decompress and do my big man baby cries by myself, right?
No,
Or with my
me.
wife. Yeah, or call, call people, because that's the beauty about everything that we do is, again, you get to build relationships with people that genuinely care. I mean, that's what makes all this stuff wonderful. And that's why I like direct mail, because it's just one of those things that it just adds something to show you care, just that much. And I know it's weird for a conservative like myself and a Republican like myself to say I care about people's feelings, but I care about people's feelings more than I do anything else this day and age. I mean, that's just the reality of it. So
It is.
I mean,
Well, you care about people,
yeah, that's
and
it.
that's
That's it.
as long as you're doing that, then yeah, everything else is good.
Yeah,
So
exactly.
I think your model, as strange as it seems, is the future.
Yeah.
This kind of integrated offline online approach, and then automating those components to make it both custom to the recipient, and then also the follow-up process, which
Mhm.
has been really difficult to set up to date. So when anybody's scared like AI is going to take all the responsibilities and jobs, it's like, you know what, these jobs sucked.
Mhm.
They've been hard and boring and difficult and inconsistent. And we're going to fix all that. And then everybody's going to be able to focus on people and creativity. And that's a beautiful thing. So,
Absolutely.
Robert, where can people learn more about you and your services?
Yeah, so we have a central hub for all of our different companies in our family. It's lesix.com. That's LESIX. And you'll be able to see the various aspects and pieces of our family of companies. If anybody is interested in incorporating direct mail into their digital advertising, you can go to mailwithabc.com. That's mailwithabc.com. And we'd be able to have that conversation right from there about how we can incorporate what we do into what you need.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Robert. And just so everybody knows, I kind of started with this, but Robert's one of our certified partners here at Digital Marketer. What certified partners are essentially agencies that are licensing the digital marketer frameworks and are part of the digital marketer community in terms of contributing content to digital marketer, but then also just having a network of agencies to talk to about your issues and your problems and everything that agency owners go through, which is not super fun all the time. But when you know that other people are going through the same struggles and have had the same issues and can provide answers that you never would have found otherwise, or maybe you just would have found that, but you never would have trusted. You could trust the people that are in the Certified Partner Program because we vet them prior to them joining. So thank you so much for being part of the network, Robert. Really appreciate your content and really appreciate you just being, open and vulnerable with the community, because I think that kind of, human connection is going to become increasingly important over the next forever. So it's
Yeah, I mean,
really good that you're here.
it seems pointless to be a partner if you don't trust people to contribute to the partnership and you're unwilling to contribute to the partnership. So I'm certainly willing to contribute. I've not always been the best about trusting people to contribute. So it's definitely been, it's been my privilege to be accepted into the community. I mean, it really absolutely has. So.
Well, we really appreciate you and your story, and we look forward to hearing more about your success, because that's at the end of the day, that's what we're here for. You know, we want marketers to be successful, rich, and happy, and hopefully we can help you do that too.
Absolutely. Appreciate it, man. Appreciate it,
All right.
everybody. Thank you.
Thank you all for coming. This has been Agencies Talk. We do these every single week. I'm actually going to my hometown, Orange County, next week, and Costa Rica for my birthday. So I'm going to speak at an AI event. I'm going to see my family in California. So I will be out. Michelle's going to take care of you. Right, Michelle?
Yeah, so we're skipping next week, and we are
Oh,
actually
we're skipping next week.
go
All right.
ahead and come back on the 30th with Angie Moore discussing the do's and don'ts of outsourcing.
Perfect. Okay, then you won't miss me. I will be back. And everybody have a good week. I'm going to have a good week. Dad's out there. Take it easy on Sunday if you can, and don't work too hard. Oh, the AI event is called the Commitment Summit, and that's in Costa Rica. So go and check out the commitmentsummit.com. I'm going to be coming out with a bunch of crazy content soon. I actually decided to do a daily newsletter video where I could rant on my crazy crap, and then I'm going to delete it after a day. So I'll probably post in the community about that, because it should be interesting. I had the idea. I'm like, oh my gosh, I could say whatever I want and I'll just delete the content. So it'll be great. It's not going to be that crazy, but it's going to be interesting and stuff I would not post online. So anyway, stay tuned for that. Thank you all, and we will see you soon.